Hello and welcome. This is Charles Fockaert on April 14th, 2019, the day before Slave Day here in the United States. Slave Day in the United States, April 15th. That's the day that you're reminded that you're a slave. I remember when I was in business and you get to the end of the year and you start adding up your expenses and your income and all that in a balance sheet, and this secretary takes care of this, and then the other guy comes in, and then you bring it to your accountant, blah, 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 and you come back, this wasn't a bad year. And then you get the bill that you have to send to your partner called the IRS, and then you realize that you're working mostly for the insurance companies, the attorneys, the bankers, and then the IRS, and then the state, and the state's still after me for almost $13,000 allegedly that I owe them for the tax year 2000. 19 years ago, folks. I don't owe that money, and yet they're after me. It's slave. You know what? I don't want to think about either. I want to be free to think about what I want to think about. And when the government intrudes like they did back with me in California, they intrude into your life. They're taking away your time and your energy that you could be using for the things that you want to do. A slave doesn't get to do what he wants to do. A slave is always doing what his master wants him to do. And the United States, I had an engineer friend tell me the way that he looked at it was the payment to the IRS every year was like a payment to the mob. They come into the neighborhood and they give you protection. They keep the other criminals away from you, and you have to pay them. So the high cost of being in the neighborhood, and in California is very high. That the boss, the mob in California, the state is very, very harsh. But this video is not on that. This video is on race, and more specifically on a particular group, a particular tribe within the white race, and that is the tribe of Jacob. And there's another tribe we will talk about in a minute, but I want to get to the subject of race, how important it is to the white race, and how important it is to the black race, the Hispanics, and the Asians. Now, I want to give a little bit of background. I know I mentioned this a lot, but there's new subscribers, new viewers. I have 13 years living outside the United States. I have 6 months in Nicaragua in the Caribbean with the blacks. I went to Thailand, 6 years in Thailand, 6 months or more, a little more in Qatar, the Arabs. I lived among the Arabs. And then in South Korea, the Asians. I've been all over Asia. I've been all over Southeast Asia. I've been in the Arab countries. I've traveled all over Central America. I'm not saying that to brag. That's just the way it happened. It turned out. It cost me my wealth that accumulated over a 20-year period of time, plus my ability to make an income to be able to have the freedom to go to those places. So I do have experience with the blacks, actually living among them, the Caribbean blacks, the Hispanics. I've traveled all over Mexico, been all over Central America except for Panama, and the Asians. I've been in Japan, I've been in Korea, I've been in Vietnam, etc., Cambodia, Laos, India. I say that because I actually have real life experience living and working among the other races. I ran across an article by John Friend on race. John Friend has a website called the Realist Report, and this is where I'm getting this information. Apparently, the Pew survey people, the Pew, whatever the Pew Foundation, I don't know, the people at Pew, PEW, did a survey, and they asked different groups in the black race, the Hispanic race, the Asian race, and the white race. And the question was, they asked each group saying being blank, being white, being black, being Hispanic, being Asian is extremely important or very important to how they think about yourself. So in other words, how important is your race to you in regards to how you think about yourself? How do you identify with your race? How important is your identity with your race, being it white, black, Hispanic, or Asian? How important is that to you and who you are? And I'm going to give you the results of Pew Research, who did this survey, is a pretty well known, and they're pretty good at what they do. But you can do a search and you can find it. John Fran, the Realist Report. I went ahead, and before I get criticized for not doing this on a spreadsheet, I want to say I don't own Microsoft products with their spreadsheet. So I'd have to use open source. And I went today, this morning, in preparing for this, to put it on a graph, but I don't have the Microsoft program. And I know how to do these graphs. My background's in economics, and I like working with these numbers, and I like working with graphs. I actually taught the Korean students at the university level in GIME for 2 years how to work with and how to use Microsoft Word, the spreadsheet, other programs. I don't even remember, forget. Everything that had to do in the Microsoft Office, I taught. So I know how to do it, but I don't want to take the time, and I think the information is more important than how it's presented. So I'm going to do the best I can here. This is, so the percent of each group saying being white or being black or being Asian is extremely or very important to how they think about themselves, how they view themselves. And the black, 52% said extremely important, 22% of the black said very important, for a total of 74% of the blacks that were interviewed said it's either extremely important or very important to me how I feel about myself. My race is important. It's included in who I am. All right?
Something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. I have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. I have no trouble. I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good. You understand?
I understand, yeah. I do understand. I understand. I think it's sad that it
ain't sad because I want my child to look like me. Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics don't want to marry a number of Catholics. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race? You a hater of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake when he made us all like we were.
I think that's a philosophy of despair.
Despair.
I really do.
It ain't no despair. Number one, can't no woman. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you. Listen, no woman on this whole earth, not even a black woman in Muslim countries, can please me and cook for me and socialize and talk to me like my American black woman. No woman, at last, is a white woman, can really identify with me and my feelings and the way I act and the way I talk. And you can't take no Chinese man and give him no Puerto Rican woman and hollering about we're in love and you emotionally in love and physically, but really they're not happy because she's going to hear some Puerto Rican music, he's going to hear some Chinese music, and they're going to be clashing all the time. It's just nature. You can do what you want, but it's nature to want to be with your own. I want to be with my own. I love my people. That's all.
Hispanics, 31. Extremely important. Very important, 28%, for a total of 59%. Asians, 27%, extremely important. 28%, very important, for a total of 54%. Think it's either their race is extremely or very important to them. And I put it on a graph down here with the black so you can get an idea of the importance, 100% being up here. And all I did was take these numbers and put them down here, and I'll show you that right there. Okay. And you probably noticed I left out the white here. I blacked it out up here so you wouldn't see it. I want you to think about it for a moment now. What percentage of whites think that their race is important, is extremely or very important to how they think about themselves? So think about that for a few seconds, and I will be right back. While you were thinking about that, the numbers, I don't know where you came up, but I wanted to show you what the Pew survey said or discovered, and that is that the whites who think it's extremely important, their race is extremely important to how they think about themselves, was 5%. And very important, another 10, for a total of 15%. 15%, folks. I've said it many times that it all comes down to race, folks. It all comes down to race. The Koreans made it very clear that they were hoping to never have to hire, or eventually not have to hire, a Caucasian to teach English. They were going to teach their Korean teachers to teach English, and they wouldn't need us. And I know this because I was hired to teach Korean English teachers. I taught about 350 Korean English teachers in Korea, in Busan and in Gimhae, and in Gimhae. And I had them tell me that we're hoping that to learn from you, and then eventually we won't need you. They didn't want us in their country, folks. All right, the Asians are 54%, and those, I don't know, they probably interviewed them here in the United States. See, if they would interview them in Korea or Mexico or a lot of these other countries, it'd probably get a much higher percentage. But these were asked here in the United States. But I learned how to be a racist, or I learned to be racist from the Koreans and the Arabs. Arabs first. I lived there first. I saw there how they treated other people and how they thought about their race firsthand. Then I went to South Korea, and that was the icing on the cake for me. I am now a full-blown racist, which means I love my race. I put my race number one with no apologies, none whatsoever. I have nothing against the other races. I just think they should have their nation, and we should have our nation. Even Paul Craig Roberts is coming out now and saying that we are no longer a nation. I gave a speech at the Missoula Toastmasters Club in 2011, in the winter 2011. Whose nation is this anyway? I mentioned this before. The reception of my speech was so cold in the room, you could have froze mercury. So out of the 20 to 23 people in the room that morning, not a single person liked what I had to say about the influx of the other races into the formerly white nation, the United States of America. For ourselves and our posterity, we instituted, this is the founding fathers telling us we're doing this Constitution for ourselves and our posterity, for our freedom, our liberty. And what's happening today, 200 and some years later, look what's going on. And it's because we've lost the white race, ourselves, and their posterity, our posterity, doesn't understand the importance of race. You know, there's a lot of, quote, truth tellers out there that won't go anywhere near the race. And I want to get this in here before I forget and before the video gets too long. There's two races at war with each other, and everything else is an aside from that. And let me go show you who those two races are. The other races, Abraham, of course, came from Adam or Adam, and then Abraham had Isaac and with Rebekah, and they produced, their posterity was Esau and Jacob, but Esau was the older brother of Jacob, and he had 12 sons, and their line was the line of the covenant that Yahweh made, our God made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, was not made with Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Now, Esau was the older brother. He should have got the blessing, but because he despised his birthright, he didn't think enough of his race, his line, his family tree, that he went out and married 4 Hittite wives, and you have their posterity here. And Esau and Jacob fought with each other from the very beginning within the womb. And when Rebekah asked about this, she was told by Yahweh that within thy womb, within your womb, are 2 nations, 2 ethnos, and they have been at conflict ever since. Now, this video is not about Esau and Edom per se, so I don't want to get too far into that, but the Esau-Edomites became known down through history, they became known as the Jews. And this is mentioned in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, and 3, verse 9, that they who call themselves Jews are not, they're of the synagogue of Satan. So we have the Esau-Edomites in conflict with the 12 tribes of Israel down to this day. In Europe, Canada, the Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian, Germanic, Celtic, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Canadians, Americans, those of South Africa, the Boers, Australia, New Zealand. I mentioned many times the tribe of Dan is Denmark. French is probably Reuben. We got Zebulon. We got Manasseh in the United States. Ephraim in Britain, in the Britain region area. So that's the tribe. That's the subgroup, if you will, of the white race who Yahweh made an agreement with. He made a contract with, he made a covenant with Abraham and his posterity. Now, as we can see from the chart, most people don't have a clue how important their race is to them, much less how important the fact that they are of the tribe of, one of the 12 tribes of Israel, Jacob, Israel. They have no idea. Now, it's sad, and I'm included in this group. Most white people, most Caucasians, can't even tell the name of their great-grandfather or grandmother. Now, I'd like to go do a study. I'd like to go to Belgium and I'd like to go to Italy, and I'd like to go do some on-the-ground research about my family. I could go to Belgium, probably look in their local phone book, if you will, and find people with my last name and go knock on their door. Hi, I'm Charles Fockaert, and I see we have the last name. But I don't even want to go to Belgium now. Belgium is ruined, from what I can understand, by the Esau Edomites, that tribe, and other races coming in to Europe, coming into Germany, coming into France, coming into Italy, Scandinavia, etc. You know the whole story. And this is going to continue until we can do something about this ignorance that most white people have as to how important their race is and should be to them in their understanding of their being, who they are. Folks, our God is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and he made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our forefathers, our forebears, and that covenant is still in existence to this day. And most people aren't aware of that agreement. I'm not doing this off the cuff, but so bear with me. Let's just say that this this little what do you call these, target? I make these up when I go shooting, and I use a bigger one sometimes too, because this is pretty small when you're back away. But anyway, for this purpose here, this is work. So let's just say truth. This target is truth, and there are a lot of people out there that will shoot on the target, and let's say how they understand about silver and gold, and they'll hit that, and they'll be pretty good. And every time they talk about it, they're in the group. My buddy's on the phone from Canada. Ryan, hold on a second. All righty, back to it. It was nice talking to you, Ryan, by the way. And but so here we are. I mentioned silver and gold. So there's people that have the truth about silver and gold. That actually silver and gold is money. But guess what? It's not that important in the overall scope of things, folks. So when you got some of these people out there that are the legends and the gurus, and this X, or what one guy advertised as a Harvard trained economist. I mean, who would put that on their as a plus, folks? And there's others I could mention. One guy worked for the CIA. We're supposed to think more highly of him because he worked for the CIA. But anyway, I digress. So we got, and all they talk about is the price of gold going up, price of gold going down, manipulated. Yeah, we get it. You know, the wheel is round. I get it. So there's no reason to go over that over and over and over again. You know, and yet, and my point is, they have an audience that they could reach if only they would include some of the more important topics. Not be afraid to discuss the elephant in the room, and stop using euphemisms, and more importantly, to look around them and realize that their white nation is disappearing. So what difference does it make if you have the big house behind you to show everybody how much money you made? Americans are so caught up in how they value people based on how much money they make. And the people who make a lot of money think they're smart, they're intelligent because they made a lot of money. That's their thermometer. That's their standard by which they judge themselves. And I tell you what, I've met a lot of wealthy, stupid people in my lifetime. Making a lot of money doesn't mean you have street smarts, that you have intelligence to survive in an environment that's not what you're used to. A lot of these people are going to get their ass kicked when the poo-poo hits the blades, and we all know and based on Scripture, that this is going to that being the conflict between Jacob Israel and the Esau Edomites is coming to a head. So I would suggest, if the whole target is truth, I would suggest that the middle here is the most important. Truth is about your race, who we are. You're a member, you're a part, you're a individual of the white race. The white race built this world, folks. We're important in the overall scope of things because we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I would further suggest, if the whole target is truth and the most important part of the truth is race, I would suggest that little baby sweet spot there. If you ever play darts, which I love to play darts, I have a dartboard up in Montana. I wish I'd give anything to have right now. I've had two. I took my dartboard with me when I went to Nicaragua, folks. But anyway, right there is the Israelite identity message, the Christian identity message. I don't call it Christian identity because the word Christian is abused and misused and doesn't mean a damn thing anymore. What's a Judeo-Christian? So an Israelite identity message is right there. If you have a website, you have an individual that you like to listen to, and he doesn't understand the importance of the Israelite identity message taken from the Word of God, going to be off, eventually going to be off on his teaching, because his foundation, which I mentioned many times before, his foundation is not plumb, level, and square. He's out of kilter. And the further away you get from the point you start, and you're off half a degree, by the time you get to where you want to go, that half a degree turns into many miles. You're way off the mark, and I know that from personal experience. On my first flight away from my home airport was supposed to go to Wairika, and I was off because of wind and my inexperience, folks. I get this from first-hand experience. If you're off just a little bit out of the truth and you take off, you're going to be way off the mark when you get to, you're going to be off by several miles, depending on how far you go, from where you wanted to end up. So I'm going to end it there. It's good to see, though, a lot of people coming our way, folks. There's not very, this message, the Israelite identity message, is not very popular, and it's not very well understood, obviously. But people are coming our way by force. They're being forced to realize how important race is and how important understanding your identity within that race and understanding who you are. And I suggest, and I can support this from Scripture, that the Caucasian race, for the most part, there are our first and second cousins there in the Slavic nations. And by the way, incidentally, or coincidentally, they were under the foot of the Esau Edomites for all those years under communism, and they're smarter, they're street smart when it comes to the Esau Edomites. They understand what they're up against much, much more than the Western Europeans, but the Western Europeans are starting to go through much of what the Hungarians and the other Slavic nations went through, the Ukraine, the Russians, etc. But I would love to travel to those countries. I would love to sit down with somebody that knows English. But hey, I don't want to get too far off. But the race is important, folks. Again, it all comes down to race. So don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Don't be cowed into thinking that you need to apologize for anything. All races do wrong things. All races commit atrocities. All races. No race is perfect. And there's one race in particular that is not perfect. And that race is our biggest enemy. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting this channel. And may the grace of God, our Father Yahweh, the creator of Adam, the creator of the first white man. A lot of people don't get this because they've been brainwashed into thinking that everyone came from Adam. Sorry, you don't get black from white. Do I need say any more? May the grace of God, our Father Yahweh, be upon the white race, because we most certainly need it. See ya.